a big fucking deal. Yeah, probably. Oh, I breathed in half realization, half acknowledgement. Beef. I hedged, then thought better of it when my stomach churned. I narrowed my eyes at this, pondering, chicken. When my body gave no immediately disgusted response, I sighed in relief, nodding. I can handle some chicken. She was literally gone before I could even finish my sentence. I watched her back, as she plowed through the crowd, so fucking brave and unrelenting. I watched as Dr. Corbett did his totally fucking smooth jacking off without hands dance routine, and proceeded to bump into her as she passed. He muttered a swift apology, but she didn't even pause. My girl was getting so good at that shit. Her progress never ceased to amaze me. Our first year of college had been shockingly fruitful for her recovery. It seemed like she'd hit a new goal every month. Now, however, she was on what Dr. Carmen liked to refer to as a plateau, which basically meant that progress was slower than two snails fucking, especially now that her issues weren't even at the forefront of our problems anymore. Still, it was almost hard to believe she'd ever been so bad off that she couldn't even sit in a chair next to him. I was surprised to find that it didn't bother me nearly as much as I'd expected. Sure, she could probably move on to some other motherfucker. She probably should move on to some other motherfucker. But you know what? If moving on was what made her happy, then I just had to deal with that shit, because as much as I wanted her to be mine, I needed her to be happy, which was something I failed to make her. 2 minutes later, I could see her plowing through the crowd, toward me once again, chin high, eyes determined, all black and yellow like some adorable little bumblebee. She set a plate of food in front of me, settled herself in her seat, and then she just waited. "Aren't you gonna eat?" I asked, a little anxious at being watched while I ate. I mean, I used to find that shit really cute, but it was kind of a big deal, and if I was just gonna hurl it all up in the next 10 minutes, I'd rather be saved the inevitable humiliation I usually felt whenever she watched my sorry ass slumped over a toilet bowl.
"I ate,"
she insisted, hands all bundled up in her hoodie sleeves, and clasped in her lap. With a nervous breath, I regarded the plate with wary eyes. It looked good, which was promising. She'd given me too much, and I assessed it with trepidation, swallowing as I reached for my fork. The first bite was the hardest. It felt awkward in my mouth, and the texture, though distantly familiar, felt alien to my tongue. Bella bit her lip anxiously as I chugged it down with a cup of cold water. The second bite was a little better, and the third bite was bordering on almost decent. With every one, her shoulders eased a little more, and those crinkled, tight lines around her eyes began to smooth away. But this was how it usually was for me. I never ate to sustain myself. I ate to sustain her. It usually came back up. This time was a little different, though. I was sincerely fucking starving, and with each bite, she might have eased, but with each bite, I stopped taking note of her reactions and just wanted. I wanted more. And it wasn't so awful. It hit my stomach uncomfortably, but maybe next time, God, I hope there was a next time, it would be a little better. Fuck me, maybe Carlisle was right. I ate everything. I ate the chicken off the bone, and the potatoes, and the weird, salad-y looking shit that I didn't even know the name of, and by the time I'd finished, I was pretty sure it had been good, not awesome, or fucking delicious, because I wasn't sure anything could ever taste fucking delicious again, but it was good. Good was something. Good was definite progress. And it was progress I'd made on my own. Ella was fucking glowing.
"Do you want another plate?"
she asked, though it sounded more like hopeful begging. Her excitement was visible as she leaned toward me, wringing in her hands, a smile hiding beneath the twitches of her cheeks. Deciding to err on the side of caution, I declined a second to helping. I sat back in my seat, feeling full in the most insignificant of ways, and waited for the nausea to come. I didn't deserve to enjoy food like that. I didn't deserve to be invited to this fancy fucking party, or meet all these fancy fucking people. I didn't deserve my girl. Jazz was right about that. I didn't deserve my family, at least, not the ones that would have me. I didn't deserve our apartment. or that room Bella had converted into a studio for my art, or my tuition, or the clattering on my finger, or her lips against mine, or the shoes on my feet, or that piece of goddamn chicken. I could feel it coming up, and I mashed my lips shut, eyes scanning for the nearest exit, as mine continued bouncing, vibrating the contents of my stomach. Bella's eyes widened, and I so fucking desperately wanted to keep it down for her sake, more than anything, but I didn't think I could. Her lip trembled, and her eyes began to water, and I could tell that she was like, this fucking close to just saying fuck it all. But then she blurted the only thing on this entire earth that could have possibly distracted me.
Those old dudes look like total spazzes, huh? Like they're trying to whack off without using their hands, or something.
Her laughter was strained, and undeniably forced, but mine stilled and my eyebrows rose, and I laughed too. No shit. I was just thinking the same thing. Laughter felt foreign and a little fucking creepy, and she looked at me like I'd grown a second head, but for the first time in months, I'd eaten a whole meal unmedicated, and I wasn't hurling it all up. Maybe I was just getting over my own plateau, and just like my girl, progress was really slower than two snails is fucking. But there was some optimism in that sentiment. After all, there were a shitload of snails and forks. I felt so much better as we made the drive home. My head wasn't hurting anymore, and even though I was still exhausted, I felt like my brain could finally function. It was amazing how much difference a simple meal could make. Unfortunately, this made me feel as though I'd forgotten something. It seemed important, but the more I failed to remember what it was, the more I figured it must not have been that important at all. Still, it was really fucking nagging at me. I went over a mental checklist as I sped toward Carlisle's house. All of us kids were staying there while he and Esme went on their honeymoon, partly for the purpose of keeping the house safe, but mostly because Emmett was gonna be a dad in 5 months, and that dumbass wanted to throw a party and go out with a bang, just like old times. Bella was silent in the seat next to me, staring out into the blackness of the forest, as it was twilight. Her mood had improved a little after I'd eaten, but for some reason, as soon as we left the reception, she got all fucking quiet and sullen once again. "What's up?" I asked, breaking the silence with a nervous sigh. Shit had been going so well, and though I'd usually let her sort her shit out without prodding like that, I wanted the lightness back that we'd left at that fucking dinner table, among empty plates and shredded cocktail napkins. I'd done something right then, and I was fumbling to keep my grasp on it. She shrugged.
Nothing.
Then she met my gaze for a moment, and pulled her lips up into a grin that was almost viable. Before I could voice my objection, she began rambling.
Can you believe they're going to Ann Island? Carlisle's one hell of a smooth operator.
She giggled weakly before turning back to window. Yep, cheesy fucker probably had that shit planned out years ago. I snorted. She offered a soft MMHM in response. And, okay, I wasn't the smartest motherfucker ever born, but I could put two and two together. I'd forgotten something, and Bella was acting quiet and distant. She knew what it was. It had probably pissed her off. Why she wouldn't just come out and tell me what it was, I didn't fucking know. That was a little something I'd learned about females since Bella, Alice, and Esme had entered our lives. They didn't want to remind you to do shit. Somehow, they wanted you to miraculously keep tabs on dates and anniversaries, and favorite colors, and special bras that weren't meant to be used for water balloon slingshotting. Yeah, well, I wasn't a fucking mind reader. Can we not do this? I implored, possibly a little more frustrated and necessary. Just tell me what I fucked up back there so I can cut the shit and start making it better. I looked to her with a huff, my grip tightening around the steering wheel. She met my gaze, and she likely realized that this was one of our trademark no bullshit moments, because her shoulders got all tense and her cheeks turned pink.
It's really stupid,
she whispered, timid, as she diverted her stare to her hands. I argued, if it was really stupid, you wouldn't be acting all. However it is you're acting. No bullshit, remember. The silence that ensued only served to frustrate me further, and I was tired, and it had been a long fucking day, and I just wanted to lay down and...
I didn't get to hug Carlisle.
The car lurched us forward as my foot stomped the brake, Bella's hands flying out to catch herself on the dashboard as I cursed, "Fuck. Fuck, fuck, fuck." I continued chanting as I pulled over and whipped out my cell phone, hoping I had enough time to catch them, and seriously doubting I did.
"Don't bother them,"
she cried as I began dialing, to which I merely scoffed. She fiddled in her seat and her face was all tight and worried and guilty and, fuck, fuck, fuck. I should have remembered. "Where are you at?" I asked as soon as Esme answered, ignoring Bella's hushed protests.
"About to cross the county line." "Why?"
I tugged at my hair and ordered, just pull over and stay there until we come, okay?" Bella's embarrassment was evident as we sped to the county line, one fingertip between my lips as I gnawed nail painfully fucking low. This was the shit that I used to have a hold on before everything went to shit. I kept such close track of her goals and progress, and I'd made charts. That was how devoted I'd once been, and now, I couldn't even remember the biggest goal of her entire year. Christ, I had to pull my shit together. Esme and Carlisle looked confused as we screeched to a halt beside their car, both emerging with matching, troubled expressions. I hastily explained, "I forgot the fucking hug." I must have looked irate as I rounded the car in a sprint, and bounced on my heels, because all of them were staring at me with wide eyes. When Esme and Carlisle both started toward me, arms outstretched, I snapped, "Not me. Her." She looked so tiny and mortified as she stood awkwardly beside the Volvo, towing her calf and wringing her hands.
"It's no big deal,"
she repeated, blushing. "Bullshit," I argued, ordering, "Let's do this." So it was on the side of a dark and creepy road, just south of the Clallam County line, that the four of us stood for 45 minutes, while I inched Bella closer and closer to Carlisle Cullen, the man who had dedicated himself to a completely fucking selfless act of fathering 4 children that he didn't even experience the pleasure of conceiving, no matter the weird and terribly ridiculous shit that particular title entailed. Seeing his arms around my girl became one of those moments that I look back on with equal parts joy and shame. Joy, because it was obviously a big achievement for Bella, and shame, because that opportunity had always been wide open for me, and I'd squandered it away. And really, that was the kind of shit I should have felt guilty about. That was something that could be helped, something that I could fix, if I'd just pull my head out of my ass for a second. So when Bella had disentangled herself from his arms, lips pulled into a bashful yet accomplished grin, I hugged him too. When I pulled away, the tips of my ears fell to flame, but I told him to be safe, and I called him Dad, and it was cheesy as fuck all, and I automatically deducted a shit ton of cool points for myself, because really, I didn't have to lay it down so thick, and if Jessica could have seen me, I never would have heard the end of it. But I'd no longer look back on that moment with joy and shame. I just look back on it and see Carlisle beaming at us as we drove away to the house he'd made our home. I groaned as soon as we pulled into the driveway. Oh, this is fucked. Was it so much to ask? I just wanted to go up to my old room, collapse onto my bed, wrap myself around my girl, and try to get some goddamn sleep. But no, that'd be too fucking easy, of course. My day of epicachattery wouldn't be complete without Emmett inviting every single person that attended the reception, below the age of 26, over to trash the place.
"I figured he'd wait a couple days,"
Bella remarked, as we exited, the booming of a bass beat vibrating the windows. I rolled my eyes before looking up to the dark windows of the 3rd floor longingly. So much for relaxing. We shared an exhausted glance before Bella suddenly perked.
"We can go out back,"
she declared, grabbing my hand and dragging me around the house. It was actually a little cold, and though she had her hoodie and I had my full tux, I was still pissed off about it.
"I've been really looking forward to spending some time out here, you know. Just like old."
Her halt was so sudden that I almost collided with her back.
"What the fuck happened to the gazebo?"
she gasped. I looked forward, assessed the overgrown structure, and raked my fingers through my hair, shrugging. They'd probably been really busy. Bella was not placated. She stomped up a small platform and stood before the table, where we'd once sat, palms up, eyes wounded.
"It looks awful,"
she lamented, spinning in place. Look at all this, she paused, and yanked a creeping vine, clutching and shaking it in her fist. Shit. I couldn't discern whether she was just really pissed off or seriously about to cry. I frowned, but ultimately collapsed onto the bench, the table at my back as I rested